Well, yesterday's rumors are today's news. In this case, because the Aussie has landed, the great carpetbagger of our time. Holy Aussie momentum, Batman. And where have you gone, Aussie-waz? As Ben Simmons, if you didn't see this, there's a rumor over the weekend. It's now become reality. We've learned that the Clippers have signed Ben Simmons, the former number one overall pick, who has been not only a basketball player, he's been an abject failure as a professional basketball player and has done more damage to the NBA than just about anyone this side of, Kawhi Leonard. But there they are together in L.A. 28 years old, Ben Simmons. Seems like he's 50, the way his body is falling apart. And he joins the people's team, and he can sit on the bench and get hemorrhoids with Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden is there, Norman Powell and whatnot. Simmons was fired by the Nets, who thought so little of Ben Simmons, they paid him to go away. Contract buyout from Brooklyn, one of the worst teams in basketball. Ben Simmons somehow has embezzled this year $40 million. That's his salary this year. It's good to be bad. It's good to be bad. $40 million. He will be free to roam around the NBA at the end of the year. This is the last year of his contract. He has averaged a futile 6 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 6.9 assists per game. That was with the Brooklyn basketball team, but now he goes to the people's team in L.A. So let us discuss the question for the esteemed panel. How do you process the Clippers' decision to go all in on Ben Simmons and beat out teams like Cleveland in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes? So I've got the Jolly Green Giant, Meatloaf, and Mizzou. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a Norwegian Lunderhound. I don't even know what that is, but it's one of the dogs at the dog show. And it's parading around. It looks like a little rat dog. And it's walking around right now. All right, so number one. I said number one. Yeah. So how do I process? That's the question. How do I process the Clippers' decision to add a player that I have taken pot shots at for his entire career? I process it. This is the franchise motto of the Steve Ballmer Clippers. It's perplexing is the word I will use. But here we are. Ballmer's got deep pockets, and these are the type of players that he is attracted to. I don't know why he is. If I ran the Clippers, I would want nothing to do with Ben Simmons. I would run to the hills to get away from a player like Ben Simmons. But yet, the Clippers, with Ballmer, have the greatest arena. They have the richest owner in sports, and they continue to be intertwined with players who don't seem to really be interested in playing basketball. They're good at it when they play, but they're not really into it. It's more like a hobby, more like a nuisance. And I go back to a term that we use. We used to use this back in the old days. It's not as used as much anymore. It's called Florence Nightingale syndrome, where the Clippers have fallen in love with trying to fix players that are perceived to have been damaged, broken players. Whether it's a domestic violence arrest, whether it's you haven't played because you don't want to play and you're seeing ghosts, come on down to Clipperland. And it's just perfect. It's poetry in motion that Ben Simmons and Kawhi Leonard will be getting hemorrhoids together on the Clippers bench as teammates. It's like the Jolly Green Giant. These guys, two peas in a pod, I should say. 2 peas in a pod, right? The Jolly Green Giant. And floating on the lazy river and all that. And this is what the front office has gone for. And I would love to know an explanation. And I'm sure the explanation will be, well, you never give up on talent. We hear that all the time when the NFL signs felons. NFL teams sign felons. Well, you never give up on talent, all that stuff. But wouldn't that be the opposite of what you should do in this situation? Guys, it's one thing, talent that's got some desire. Ben Simmons has no desire. He has no desire. He's the antithesis of the type of player that you would want. And yet these players get embraced. He's a carpetbagger. He's making $40 million. He'll go somewhere else. I'll bet you he'll probably play all right with the Clippers because he wants another contract and to embezzle more money from someone else in the NBA. But I want guys that drink Modelo, that have the fighting spirit. That's what I want. I want players that'll scratch and claw and do everything they can to get on the court. I know I'm dating myself, and you're a boomer. Why would you want? Well, they could get hurt, Ben. Oh, my God, if they play too many minutes, and then that's on you. Yeah, no, I know. I'm a dinosaur. I actually like athletes that want to play and have that edge to them. And I guess I'm too old now. But I just don't want anything to do with guys like Ben Simmons. I don't. And he is just the opposite of everything I like when I watch sports and when you look at people that compete. And the Clippers have a roster that is filled with players like this. Either they have made so much money and won championships like Kawhi Leonard, they're just not that into it, or they've never won a championship, but they've made so much money, and maybe they're really good at basketball, but they don't really like basketball, and they like all the things that come with it. It's like going to Thanksgiving and be like, well, I don't like the turkey, but I like the stuffing, and I like the mashed potatoes and the biscuits and the cornbread, and I like the cranberries and the yams, but I don't like the turkey. Well, in basketball, the turkey is the game itself, but you like all the groupies that follow you around, right? All the money that you get, all the endorsements, all the fanboys that lick your toes. You like all that stuff, but you don't actually like the turkey part of the meal, which is the main part of the meal. And that's where we are. All right, now, page 2. Do you expect Ben Simmons to change his ways with the Clippers? Now, I've heard some of my Clipper friends. I do have Clipper friends. Oh, Ben, don't be too hard on Ben Simmons. He'll be good. And listen, I like the Clippers. I hope they win. I hope I'm wrong. But there's no way on God's green earth I think Ben Simmons is going to be any different than he was in Philly or in Brooklyn. Maybe for a couple games he'll play well, but he's a liability. Much like Luka Doncic is a liability for the Lakers. He doesn't play defense. Ben Simmons is a liability on offense for the Clippers. He's not going to play very much, but when he's out there, he's like Shaquille O'Neal. Anything within 3 feet of the basket, he's fine. You take him out of the painted area, he's got the yips, and he starts seeing ghosts. And it's like that Meatloaf song from back in the day, what you see is what you get with Ben Simmons. And if you do the Maller math, Ben Simmons came out of college. He's been in the NBA. He missed his first year, but it was 2016, 2017. He's been around for parts of 9 seasons. He's missed 2 full seasons and most of a third, if my math is right here, with either injuries or made-up stuff. He just didn't want to play and, all that stuff. And so much like we say a leopard cannot change its spots, right? We know the answer to whether Ben Simmons is going to have this come-to-Jesus moment and see the light and have this great metamorphosis in a Clipper uniform. It's just not going to happen. Maybe for a little bit, but he's the type of slacker that makes you have apathy for the sport of basketball. And if you've listened to the show and followed this show over the years, you know that we used to talk a ton of basketball. Now we only do it when it's rare and appropriate. Now the football season's over, and so we'll pick our spots and talk more basketball. But we would talk basketball, NBA basketball during the season. But the attitude of players like Kawhi Leonard, Ben Simmons, Anthony Davis, and a bunch of other guys has driven us to a state of apathy where they don't give a rat's ass, so why should we give a rat's ass? Now, we do enjoy the playoffs still, but not as much as we did in the past. Now, furthermore, moving on from that, we go to Minnesota. That's right, Minnesota. The Timberwolves were smoked. Watched some of that game with Cleveland on Monday. That game not competitive, but this is not about a random Minnesota-Cleveland basketball game. Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, baseball guy, A-Rod, the baseball guy. They claim they have won their long, bitter battle with Glenn Taylor, the longtime owner of the Timber Puffs of the NBA, and that news coming out on Monday evening. And the arbitrator supported A-Rod's group, which means that now it's up to the NBA Board of Owners. They call it Board of Governors, but they're owners. Draymond Green didn't like the word owners, so we can't say the word owner. I call them owners. I'm a rebel. So the owners of the NBA have to approve that. The league has to sign off on it, but as long as they approve, then A-Rod will take over control of the Minnesota basketball team. The panel of arbitrators, 3 arbitrators, ruled in favor of A-Rod and his rich people that are his friends to get control of the team, but they have to get league approval. So that's the next step. So it's not official, but it's heading that direction. So I ask you the question. Got a lot of great listeners in Minnesota, and this is really only for you. But there's people that know who A-Rod is. So here's the question. Alex Rodriguez Group winning an arbitration decision, and they're on track to own the Timberwolves. Is this a good day, a bad day, or something else for Minnesota? All right, so I have it as something else. I am in a Mizzou state of mind, meaning I'm in a show-me state type of situation here because I am very skeptical of A-Rod. I interviewed him back in my younger days when he was playing for the Mariners and the Rangers and all those teams, and he is pop goes the weasel. You knew it before. I didn't even realize the depths of A-Rod as a weasel. It hadn't come out yet that he had done the things that he had done and all that. Does he still have that painting of him as a half man, half horse there on his, I don't know. But that aside, that's a different issue. I would be very concerned if I'm a Minnesota sports. If you actually like the Timberwolves, I know that's about a dozen people, but I would be worried because A-Rod has a gazillion investors. And A-Rod's the kind of a dirty dog that will take that basketball team in the middle of the night, bring in the Mayflower moving vans, and say, I'm out. I can't get enough TV money. I can't make enough money in the market. I got to get out. The arena's not good enough. I got to go somewhere else. And there's a city in the Pacific Northwest that hasn't had an NBA team since a rich oil baron from Oklahoma ripped the team out of Seattle. The Seattle basketball market has been barren. There's a lot of tech money in Seattle. There's a lot of a lot of corporate money there. And so with Costco's not far away and whatnot. So there is a world in the multiverse where Alex Rodriguez, nickel and dime A-Rod, ends up getting rid of the team altogether, just moves it to Seattle and says, well, I played for the Mariners. I've always loved Seattle, and they need basketball there, and I want to go back to Seattle and blah, 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 and go pound sand Minnesota. So I'd be very worried about that because he's the kind of shady cat. He'll never say it, right? I'm sure he'll say, I don't plan on moving the team at all. Nobody plans on doing anything until they do it. You don't announce it. You don't announce it, right? You just do it.